to the First Things First podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Wolfe. Joining me will be the Hall of Famer, Cris and Nick Wright. Huge show today. We're talking Patriots, Chiefs, and, of course, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell is on set. You don't want to miss that. Let's get started. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Players obviously get excited for a season to start. I was going to ask you if you get excited for the season, but then I realized you probably didn't even have an off season. Is there any downtime for the life of a commissioner, especially this year?
Jenna, first, I am excited. This is, we have a busy off season. We had a very busy off season this year, focusing on a lot of changes for the game presentation. How do we make the game better on the field and off the field? We focused a lot on officiating, centralizing replay, and also adding full-time officials, but also spending an awful lot of time on the game presentation. How do we make the experience better for our fans in the stadium and also at home? And reducing the commercial time and trying to make sure that we reduce the interruptions. I think all those things are going to make a difference for our fans this year.
You'll be in New England tonight for the Patriots and Kansas City. Your reaction to what the fans' reaction will be? Do you think everyone's going to welcome you in there?
That may be one way to put it, Jenna.
Okay.
If you got an extra seat, Nick and I are willing to go with.
You're welcome. No, I'm excited about being there. Listen, I was up there all day yesterday. We spent the day in Boston. We had a lot of events going on. And, the fans are passionate and they're loyal. You expect that.
Yeah.
And you want that.
You want that.
And that's what's great about our game. And so Patriot fans are going to show that loyalty tonight, I'm sure.
Roger, on the field, I've been associated with this league since 1987. I'm very, very proud of it. We've always promoted protecting the shield, protecting the game, protecting the players. And we've always told people around the world, from a global standpoint, these are the best 1,600 players in the world. And I've always told, I felt pride in telling people that. Recently, we've heard some of our greatest players, Aaron Rodgers, Von Miller, Cam Newton, a couple guys who played the position. They've said that right now, Colin Kaepernick should be playing in the NFL. Now, for me and a lot of other former players that have played, it's disturbing to us that not only the ability or lack of ability to promote that we are the best, we also have the best backups. When I see someone like Joe Webb get signed as a third stringer by Buffalo, it's disturbing to me. With you being the commissioner, are you troubled by Colin Kaepernick not being on the opening day roster in the NFL?
Well, Cece, the thing we always are about is meritocracy and opportunity. So, I want to see everyone get an opportunity, including Colin. And so, but those are decisions that are made by football people. As you know, teams, and someone we both respect, Tony Dungy and I were talking about this, when teams have a need and when teams feel like they can get better by a particular individual, whether they know the system or whether they have more talent or whatever it may be, that's what they're going to do. And I'm still convinced that he'll get that opportunity when the right opportunity comes along. And that's what our league's all about, as you know.
Follow up on that quickly. When you watched the games last year as a fan, which I know is tough as the commissioner, when you watched Colin, did he strike you as a guy that's good enough to be in the league?
Well, Nick, one thing I do as a commissioner, I don't make those decisions. I'm not a football expert. I'm a huge fan. I have a role as commissioner also, but for me, I watch the games and enjoy it, and I let the football people make those decisions. And the reality is there's 32 different decisions, right? And multiple decisions within an organization. So there's always a dispute. And the idea of who can play and who can't play, who's best for our system and not best for our system, are decisions that should be made by those 32 teams.
All right, so something Cris and I go back and forth a lot on is the personal conduct policy. Mm-hmm. I wonder if at any point you ask yourself if it's more trouble than it's worth, if it wouldn't be better left up to the teams. Like, listen, what the Cowboys want to do, they do. What the Chiefs want to do, they'll do. For you as the commissioner, what do you think the personal conduct policy achieves? And do you think it's been worth it?
Well, yes, it's definitely worth it because I think people expect it from the NFL, from the standards. And, this goes back several decades. And, in fact, the NFLPA at the time supported that because they wanted the policy to be uniformly applied. They didn't want one team doing something and one team doing another. Second of all, everything that we do collectively reflects on everybody else. So if a negative incident occurs on one team about a player, it affects every other player, or coach or executive. So collectively, we all represent the shield, the NFL. And so for me, there's no question that it's worth it, because that's what's expected of being a professional in the National Football League, and that's what our fans expect us to do.
One quick follow-up on that one. With Ezekiel Elliott in particular, this situation, I know it's probably going to go to the courts. Do you get frustrated with the timeline of these things? That it seems that...
Yeah, sure. Nick, you know, listen, the frustration is we have a process. We have been very careful and deliberate in that process. There was a very long investigation. There was a process for which we've agreed in our collective bargaining agreement. We follow that to a T. And still there's litigation from the NFLPA. We understand that, and we believe that the law is clear on this, and we believe that the process that we followed is completely consistent with the CBA, and that will be demonstrated. And that's why we believe our system should stay as we collectively bargain and not in the courts. But they have a right, and that's been done in the past, and frankly, we prevailed on that, and I think we'll prevail again.
There's such a focus on quarterbacks, Roger, and it's been such a highlighted position, and we all spend so much time glorifying them or not glorifying them, although you did throw Joe Webb under the bus. Poor Joe Webb was like, I didn't even do anything. But what did I do? Are there other positions that you look at that you would say, hey, that's a big position we should spend more time focusing on?
Well, the one that probably people have a tendency to overlook are the offensive linemen. And I think they're sort of the focus, because when you have great offensive line play, the quarterback has more time to throw, the running back has bigger holes to run, and the receivers have more time to get open. So I think offensive line play is underestimated and probably overlooked a little bit.
Every year we're making a number of changes with the game. Fans over the last 5 years have kind of adjusted their eye to the rules. Yeah. We haven't made too many rule changes in the last year compared to the previous 3 years. What changes are you looking forward to seeing implemented this season?
Well, I think some of the things that I was mentioning up front about game presentation will be, you know, the fact that we're going to have clocks after a touchdown and after a point after a touchdown. I think that's going to speed the pace of the game up, which is something we were looking to do. And in fact, in all my conversations with the players in the offseason, that was really a very important point to them. They want to see the pace picked up and not interrupt the number of plays overall in the game. So I think that's a really positive change that we're pretty excited about. I think the centralizing of the replay and the full-time officials, we're going to learn a little bit more. We all want consistency. We want accuracy in our officiating. I think our guys are the best in the world, but we can always get better, and that's what we do. And so all of our changes are designed to improve the quality of what we're doing, whether it's the quality of the game on the field, whether it's the quality of the experience for our fans in the stadium and at home. We've mentioned the fact that, you know, we want to improve have less interruptions in our game. That's important for us, and it will make our game better for our fans.
Depending on what the laws in this country, how they evolve, and depending on what the science says, how open are you to players, instead of using some of the painkillers that we see them using now, using marijuana as a pain substitute or as a way to possibly prolong their careers?
Well, Nick, I think first, you know, you're making a lot of statements in there that I think have to be backed up by medical technology and medical science. And that's what we're relying on, is the medical experts to do that. We reached out to the NFLPA a couple of months ago and said, let's jointly do some research and some studies to see how can we better manage pain. How can we be using medical marijuana in some form? Are there other forms of that? So that's something that we're incredibly open to, and we've made changes, and we should continue to do that. But driven by medical science, that's the key for me.
Roger, this morning we reported that Larry Fitzgerald was discussing, on a side note, to some of his opposing D-backs, hey, do me a favor, if you get a chance, don't hit me high, hit me low. I will
Other way.
Oh, sorry. Hit me low, don't hit me high.
Yeah.
Hit me high, don't hit me.
I screwed you up, Jenna. Sorry. As you were. As you were. You're the pro here.
Every day, Roger.
You're the pro
Every
here.
day.
My bad. As you were.
I don't. I have no idea. We're 3 days in, and I'm already sweating.
As you were, Jenna. Sorry about that. I'll just keep writing.
That being said, and that's a great doodle, by the way. How does it land on you that these guys are trying to make? I know what you're trying to do is protect them and make it safer for them, and there are these side deals going on because they want to be out on the field every Sunday, and they know that they can be easier with a head injury than they can with a leg injury.
Well, Jenna, when we make these rule changes, we spend a lot of time talking to players about them, coaches, our competition committee. This isn't something that we just go in a closet and figure out. And so we understand the risk of going low. We understand the risk of going high. That's why there's a big target area in between. And that's what our rules are focused on, is the target area in between. We don't want you to go low. We don't want you to go too high. And so there are risks on both levels. And that's something that we've discussed, and that's why the rules have focused on a target area. And our competition committees focus on it. I think the players have adjusted. I think the coaches have adjusted. And I think our game's safer and more exciting because of it.
All right, we know we're up against it. This is the most important question that we will ever ask you. I need the full list of wide receivers better than this guy. I'm sorry, you can't just say Jerry Rice. You can't say Jerry Rice and nobody else.
That's all I'm going to tell you.
Listen, if you're going to be friends with me, you got to share me. Me and Roger are friends. Okay?
Can I follow up with the fact that
yes, you can.
Every day he says he could be out there, wherever it is, he could be on a field. If there's any calls you can make, if there's someone you
he probably could.
No, I'm talking about as an NFL, not an official, but as an NFL official representative watching the game. Oh. I didn't say I could be out on the field playing.
I don't know about that, Roger. I don't know about that.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank
you, guys. Good luck with the show. We love watching
the game,
sir. Thank you.
Hey, if I were to be a counting woman, I would tell you that it has been 213 days, 7 hours, and 48 minutes since NFL football last happened. And in my humble opinion, 213 days too long. Tonight, the defending champion Patriots take on Nick's Kansas City Chiefs. Pats are 4-0 in openers coming off a Super Bowl win. And Nick, I hate to tell you this, but the Chiefs have never won at Gillette Stadium. How big is the gap between the Patriots, forget the Chiefs, but and the rest of the NFL right now?
I don't think the gap is near as large as Vegas thinks it is, near as large as my Twitter mentions seem to think it is. I had the audacity to say yesterday that I think the Steelers are the best team in the AFC. And you'd have thought that I said the Patriots should cut Tom Brady. The Pats are the best dynasty.
Well, that's the only way the Steelers would be better than the Patriots.
If they
cut Tom Brady.
Okay,
go ahead and proceed.
And we might be giving away the story a little bit because we have Super Bowl predictions coming up later, and so people maybe can figure out my AFC side of it. But the Patriots are the best dynasty in the modern football era, and you can make an argument that I don't need modern. You can just say the best football dynasty ever. But that doesn't affect this season. And so much of the analysis about this season is based on what the Patriots did last season. And I want to remind the audience that the Patriots last year, when they ran through the AFC, they happened to run into the most fortuitous group of quarterbacks any team in the modern era has. Once Tom Brady came back, here are the quarterbacks the Patriots beat. Charlie Whitehurst, Andy Dalton, Landry Jones, Tyrod Taylor, Colin Kaepernick, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jared Goff, Joe Flacco, Trevor Siemian, Ryan Fitzpatrick again, Matt Moore. That's the list headed into the postseason. So there's a lot of teams that would have reeled off 11 of 12 against that group of quarterbacks. It's not a knock on Brady. It's not a knock on Belichick. I just think the Patriots maybe have more flaws than the schedule showed last season.
Every team has flaws. The Patriots did have flaws, but there are some things that are very, very obvious. The question is, are the Patriots that much better than the rest of the league? Well, the first part of that is they're that much better than the AFC, especially at home. And the home and away situation in the NFL, it's huge. You only got 8 home games, 8 away games. But with Tom Brady as the quarterback, and no, Nick's the numbers guy, but I had to snatch this number from him. With him as a quarterback, Nick, are they not 52-1?
At home, and they're since 07, 52-1 at home.
At July.
07.
Yep.
So if you're trying to get the Super Bowl, and we're not trying to get to our picks and everything, how are you going to beat New England in New England? So when you ask me that question, what team is more equipped? And I think that there's several teams in the NFC and maybe a couple teams in the AFC. But there is a wide gap between the Patriots, and this is just not based on last season. If I was just based it on last season, because one thing they don't get credit for, last year the Patriots had the #1 scoring defense in the NFL. No one talked about it. I think their defense this year could be better. Stephon Gilmore added to corner gives them a bigger, more athletic corner. So they have the ability to be able to make more plays. I think the Patriots, in the way they do things from the top with Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, and having Tom Brady on the field, all of those ingredients lead to a large gap between the Patriots and the other 31 teams in the NFL.
You talked a lot about how the Patriots, this is a different season, and it's a new season, and the Patriots are the first team to say, we don't care about our past. All we care about is what's happening today. And Devin McCourty had a great quote. He said, whether they're coming off a Super Bowl or not, Bill Belichick makes sure we always have a start-from-scratch mentality, like we're starting at the very beginning. So let me ask you this. Last year, Patriots come into the league they start the season without Tom Brady 4 games. You know what happened.
No problem.
This year, they come in, they're without Julian Edelman. As confident, less confident, or maybe even a little bit more confident because they've done this?
Well, Edelman has a less impact on the game than someone like Tom Brady, because Tom Brady not only affects the offense, affects the play calling, but he affects the defense.
But you don't have him the whole year.
But I understand.
Yeah.
But when you have him as your quarterback, the way you play defense has to be different. You want to try to create more turnovers to try to give Jimmy Garoppolo and them a short field. Your special teams, with the Patriots, don't ever get credit for. They're some of the best in the business, if not the best, as far as their kicking situation. So it's tough for people to say, yeah, we're going to start moving forward. But when you done built a mansion off of slaughtering people, like, there is some carryover into the next season, and there's more carryover for the Patriots than any other team because they have the Patriot way. It's a culture, it's a system, and there's carryover from year to year.
Let's talk about Tom Brady for a moment, because he is now entering totally unprecedented territory as far as his age and his level of excellence. It's Warren Moon, it's Vinny Testaverde, it's Brett Favre, guys that have been the full-time starter at his age in modern NFL history. That's the full list. Only Favre had the type of season that people expect Brady to possibly have. Let's think about that season we're talking about with Favre. The Vikings year. The Vikings year that ended unceremoniously with, why would you ponder passing, as the great Paul Allen said on the radio call,
yes,
when Brett Favre ends the NFC Championship game against the Saints, essentially ends it with a bad interception. I don't think it's a coincidence that the 40-year-old Favre finished his final game of the season with a bad play. This is what we started to see with Brady last season. Brady, for the regular season, those 12 games, was brilliant. I mean, this stat, I think, is an important one. There were only 7 passes he threw all regular season that could have been intercepted, interceptable balls. There were 9 thrown in the postseason by Brady that were interceptable balls. Why? Were the defenses much better? Well, I don't know. Atlanta wasn't known for its defense. He threw 5 in the Super Bowl, 5 interceptable balls. So I say that to say this. Is it possible that the suspension was good for Brady at his age, where he got 4 fewer games to play, 4 fewer games to get hit, 4 fewer games to have the wear and tear on his body? It sounds odd to say, but he's not going to have the benefit of the first month of the season off. With most guys, CC, you'd worry about their preparation. Brady, the preparation's going to be there. He could show up on Thanksgiving and still know the team, but those hits, the age, I just wonder if it's enough when I don't think the gap's as big as everyone else does.
If we're looking at Tom Brady's age, and you make a legitimate point, against those teams, 2 playoff games and in the Super Bowl, Tom Brady didn't play great. Now, if they don't have the second half and overtime comeback, it's a whole different conversation we start today. And it probably starts with Tom Brady's age.
Yep.
But he didn't. Now, are we going to give Tom Brady benefit of the doubt that we haven't given all the other quarterbacks, that being Favre, Manning of recent? You have to, based on the success that he's had. Now, Edelman, I believe his overall productivity, it's hard to replace. He gets so many tough yards. He breaks off so many blitz hots. Him and Brady are in sync. There's a lot of wide receivers that they're friends with their quarterback, but there's very few wide receivers that are in the inner circle of the greatest quarterbacks. And that's what Edelman had. That can't be replaced on paper. Now, as the season goes on, I think that's something that we should visit. With Tom Brady, based on how he finished last season, is his overall age catching up to him?
All right, should they just give him October off? Like, Tom, take care of the first 4. We'll let Garoppolo take care of October. We'll see you in November.
We'll let Nick suggest that to Bill Belichick. And welcome back to First Things First. So the Odell Beckham watch continues. Odell did not participate in Wednesday's practice as he continues to rehab an ankle injury that he suffered in the preseason. Beckham said he, quote, did some running here and there, and his ankle feels better every day. The Giants' star wide receiver is hopeful that he'll be good to go for Sunday night's matchup against the Cowboys.
I wouldn't count it out, yeah. And my heart's just, it's just not going to make this easy. So, like I said, it's a day-to-day thing, really trying to get better. It's been 2 weeks, so I'm itching, but just patience and trusting.
So, CC, if I read between the lines, it sounds like there's a little bit of hesitation with regards to week 1 in the first game. Should the Giants be worried about Odell at all?
If I was the Giants, I'd be worried because I know Odell and I know he's a workaholic. I know he loves to run, he loves to practice, or he loves to dance. He wasn't even doing that. And if you watch the video and you watch the exercises, now I've had a high ankle sprain. And it's a weird injury compared to a normal twisting of the ankle, a basketball sprain, because it's higher on the ankle, it's in front of the ankle, and behind the ankle. So you can run a little bit forward, but you just can't stop and you can't turn. So when he was running, I didn't see him stopping. That was a problem. I didn't see him doing anything laterally for the most part. He did the little shuffle drill, which is a basic stretching drill, but he didn't do anything explosive. So I know it's hard to stop. I know it's hard to turn. I know it's almost impossible to jump. So when I'm not on the field as a wide receiver, now if it was week number 15, if it was week number 12, I wouldn't be as concerned because guys have gotten themselves in the shape, and we'll see guys as the season goes on. They won't practice all week, but not the first game. So he's not going to get any reps with Eli the last 3 weeks of the preseason and go against Dallas Sunday night. Yes, I'm concerned. Now, he could still play, but I'm concerned, is it the Odell that we've seen for the first 3 years?
You told us on the very first episode of this show that if Odell Beckham Jr. does not practice on Thursday, that's when you start as a wide receiver to say, whoa, there's something here is amiss.
Yeah, and the reason why, because the heaviest 2 work days are Wednesday and Thursday.
And he already missed Wednesday.
Yes.
So that's just something for the audience to remember, that this has been a concern for basically the entirety of the week. You mentioned you didn't see him cutting. You didn't see him starting and stopping. I want to remind the audience, it's something I looked into last night when we talked on the phone about what you saw in that video, because you're going to see things differently than me. And I was thinking, okay, if all he can do really is run in a straight line, can they use him as a decoy? He's so fast. Could they possibly put him out there and just say run-go routes? All of last season, Odell only caught 4 passes all year where the ball traveled more than 25 yards in the air. That is not what he is not out there being Julio Jones. Right. He is out there running slants, running quick outs, quick ins, where it is all about starting, stopping, changing direction. That is how they get the ball in the hands of the most dangerous player in the NFL, Odell Beckham Jr. So I thought about that. And then the other thing I thought about was his reaction after the injury. I think most people either saw it live or you can call it back in your mind. He's walking off the field. So he's walking off the field, no one's carrying him. You're like, okay, he didn't tear up his knee. Maybe they dodged a bullet. He's in the tunnel by himself.
Yep.
And he gets down in a crouch position, puts his head down, and some people read that as, the drama king, Odell Beckham. I read that as he's saying, you got to be kidding me. Like, really?
This whole offseason.
The whole offseason. You and I sat in his house, listened to him talk about how important this year is. He did everything he could to stay healthy. And one little bit of bad luck, and it felt to me like in that moment, he was saying, this can change. Like, I'm dealing with this, and you said the words high ankle sprain. Well, that is an injury that can linger, man.
Well, I don't know that.
Right.
I'm not a doctor.
But if it is that.
But anytime a skilled guy gets hurt, that's the part that they're trying to avoid. The diagnosis where the trainer or the team doctor says this is a high ankle sprain compared to a normal rolling of the ankle. Normal rolling of the ankle is 7 to 14 days. A high ankle sprain is 4 to 6 weeks. Right. All right, until it is completely healed. Now, completely healed is a relative term. He's not going to be completely healed until after the season.
Well, that's the part that now I'm just calling back to what because he knows his body. There's no doubt he's played this position his whole life without having some sort of an ankle sprain. And when he drops down on his knees in the tunnel, I wonder if what's going through his head is, this is all year now. Well, he's not gonna sit out 8 weeks. Right. Like, you want to be fully healed from this high ankle sprain, see you in 2 months, if it is that. But so if he comes back at less than 100%, there ain't no time for him to get to 100% all year long.
Right. And now I talked to him right after the Cleveland game, and he was scared it was his knee at the beginning. We didn't talk about what happened in the hallway, but going through a high ankle sprain myself, you feel like your lower leg is broken. So that could have been the reaction, him, before he got the MRI in the tunnel at Cleveland Stadium. But this injury is significant. Randy Moss came to the Vikings. Most people didn't know. His rookie year, he had a high ankle sprain to start the season. He played a bunch of games, but Randy Moss didn't practice a whole bunch his rookie year. That's how we knew how special he was. I think he scored 17 touchdowns his rookie year. And we knew he had a high ankle sprain to start the season.
This is a big year for Odell. He wants to get out there as often as he can. He wants to prove himself. He really wants to get the organization on his side and see what he can do. Are we concerned at all that he may force himself back sooner than he perhaps should in order to do that and prove himself? And if so, to his detriment.
We can blame it on him trying to get out there, but his football instincts will push him to get on the field. It won't be because he wants a contract extension. It won't be because he loves to play.
Okay.
And most great players love to play. We're going to see guys this weekend. Starting tonight, we're going to see guys, New England, Kansas City, and this is the way NFL players and this is the way the business is done. Yeah, I might not be healthy, but I can still participate. And that's what we might end up seeing Sunday night.
So if he doesn't play, if you're saying these guys want to get out there and they'll play through pain and whatnot, if he doesn't play, it's really bothering you.
It's a real problem.
Oh, I would try to play. And when I suffered the high ankle sprain, happens to be in Kansas City, I wish I had that T-shirt you got.
Blaming me?
Kansas City's for suckers.
That's not what the T-shirt says.
Yes, it does.
He's paraphrasing, Nick. He's paraphrasing, Nick.
Go ahead. Go.
So I get a high ankle sprain in Kansas City.
Dale Carter hit you?
The
James Hasty?
Somebody cheap shot me.
Of course.
But the next week we played Green Bay on a Monday night. I tried to play in the game. I played the first 3 or 4 plays, but I couldn't play. So I ended up having to take a week off. So it is a significant hampering to a wide receiver, especially if he was an interior lineman. You could tape it up, stop the mobility of the joint, but as a wide receiver, you need that.
And I know the Giants, people might be saying, okay, well, the Giants are better conditioned this year to deal with some time without Odell if he does have to miss time because they drafted Evan Ingram, because they brought in Brandon Marshall. Everything this team did last year was based around him.
Yes.
They were in 11 personnel, which means 1 tight end, 1 running back, 3 wide receivers, more than any team in the league by a drastic margin. 92% of the time, they're in the same formation. No other team in the league was more than 76%. Mm-hmm. Why are they in that formation? It gives them the best chance to get the ball in Odell Beckham's hands. This team is based around his skill set.
Hey, welcome back to First Things First. Look who's here. That guy. Mark Schlereth joins us.
Hey.
Hey.
Good to be back.
Good to see you, my man.
Mark, tackle football starts tonight.
I know, isn't that amazing?
What in the world could you possibly be doing besides sitting down watching TV at 8:30 this evening?
You can't do anything other than sit down and watch TV at 8:30 and tweet about watching TV at 8:30.
Something you didn't say 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just get on
that Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
He's
Let's
on it.
mix it up.
He's a
Get
Twitter
at me, people.
superstar.
Get at me.
You could bring any topic up, and that's how excited. Yeah, get at me. All eyes in Dallas are going to be on Ezekiel Elliott this week, who will be playing Sunday versus the Giants before beginning his 6-game suspension. So Elliott practiced all week. He did miss time last week preparing for and attending the appeal hearing. However, Jason Garrett said Elliott seems ready to go for the season opener.
He seems very focused, locked in on meetings, the walkthrough. We'll have a good practice today. He's done an excellent job in his preparation. I think the biggest thing for all of us is to focus on what we need to do each and every day. And that's been a point that we try to emphasize to our team for a long, long time. And our team understands the importance of that. In order to be your best, you got to focus on yourself and what you need to do on your preparation to play your best football. So that's really where our focus is. We don't spend a lot of time on other stuff.
Nothing surprising, Mark, or shocking there out of what Jason Garrett said. But when you look at this game and you talk about not which team can afford to lose, but it seems like more pressure is going to be on the Cowboys to win this game in Week 1.
Well, I mean, everybody has pressure on them to win games. I mean, it's hard to win games in the National Football League. And the thing I love about the league and just playing in general is there is this pressure to perform, and everybody within an organization always feels like, regardless, even if it's Week 1, we've got our finger just mashed down on the panic button at all times. You lose this game and there's panic within your organization. That's the way it is.
It's the culture in NFL.
Right. It is the culture. So, you get punished, you lose, you have to come in and study the film with the coaches. If you win, you just can come in and watch it on your own. Like, everything is punishment in this league. If you don't play well, you as a football team get punished. So there's a ton of pressure. But is it a make or break? They lost their opener last year and went 13-3 against the Giants, these same Giants. So is there more pressure because Ezekiel Elliott is not going to play? He's going to be suspended at some point. And it may not even be this year, guys. It may be a year from now. But there is some pressure there because they know the inevitability of him missing games is real.
You mentioned that they lost their opener last year. That I think it is important to, and you touched on it, to remind people that while the Cowboys had an air of invincibility about them last year once the year got rolling, there's one team they were not invincible against, the Giants, a team that they will be competing to win the division with again this season. And the other part of it, I don't think Zeke's suspension is going to get pushed a year the way Brady's was. I expect him to be suspended this season. I think it'll probably start Week 2. So then you have to start looking at, for the Cowboys, all right, let's look at the schedule for a moment and find where are these 11, 12 wins coming from if you want to be a team that headed in the playoffs is a Super Bowl favorite. I look at the last 4 games of their season. I don't know that there's another team in the league with a tougher end to the season. The end, some teams you can, like the Packers last year, one of the reasons they didn't panic, they knew what they had in the final 6 games. They were like, all right, we've got 1 tough game against Seattle and then 5 very winnable games. Dallas, 3 of their last 4 on the road. Here's what they got: at the Giants, at the Raiders, home for Seattle, at Philly. If at Philly is your easiest game in the final quarter of your season, you can't go into that quarter of the season needing to go 3-1, much less run the table. And then you're going to be without Zeke for 6 weeks. And so that brings me to the point of there is no such thing as a must-win in Week 1, but this is damn sure close.
And they cannot afford to lose.
This is damn sure close.
I know one thing. NFL players don't get a schedule like that and go, let me see what's in the last 4 weeks and how hard these teams are going to play.
But
you know what they do? You know what they do? They go, where's my bye week? Oh, there it is. And you know what else they say? They go, what's Week 1? Oh, the Giants. That's what they're thinking about. So there ain't one player or coach going, boy, these last 4 games look hard.
Well,
how hard would those last 4 games if Eli and Derek Carr, and
but whether they're looking at it or not, is it not something? If we saw in the last 4, it's like, oh, they're home against Cleveland, they go to the Rams, and they have a game against Jacksonville. You might be like, oh, okay. The odds are
what you would be saying there is they do have a chance to recover.
They have a margin of error.
Right. But Mark, what he's talking about is what is the culture? And the culture is the house is on fire every week.
Yes.
It's a 5-alarm fire every game. And the game that you don't go into it with that type of scrutiny or that type of stress, that's the game you get blown out, or that's the game that you get hurt. So it's consistent with every team. It's not the Belichick way. It's everywhere. Even the teams that are losing, they have the same amount of intensity and pressure on winning week after week after week. Now, Ezekiel, back to him. The reason why it's really important is they don't have a player that can produce the way he can produce.
Correct.
And he's going to be that deodorant for that defense that does not have a pass rush, for a secondary that we don't know who's going to be there. And talking to some people very close to Zeke, Zeke's rookie year, it was a freak year. Zeke didn't spend much time in the weight room. Zeke didn't spend much time getting sleep, taking care of his body, eating the right type of thing. He was just wild, a rookie, wild. Just, I'm playing Sundays, sleeping during the meetings during the week, not paying attention to the details. But this offseason and this season, he's been lifting weights, he's been running, he's training, and he's ready to take care of his body the way a pro is going to do. So I was looking for him to go for 1,600 to 1,800 this year. I still think he'll rush for 1,000. But that productivity, that's what makes week number 1 a must-win. You know, also, because I don't look at the schedule. Typically, as a wide receiver, we look at the first game, but we look out there to see, are we going to Buffalo? We going to Green Bay? Right. You know, is it cold? But now at this job, I have to look at the schedule. More importantly, forget the last 4 games, Nick. Dallas, all right? They're first game, Giants.
Yeah.
What's week number 2, Nick?
At Denver.
Okay.
And at Arizona.
Okay. What about 2 weeks after that? Who they got?
Home for Green Bay.
I would say week number 1's a must-win situation for them.
But you guys are placing so much, whether we know when Zeke is suspended or not, the assumption is he's playing week 1, he'll probably be suspended 2 through 8, whatever it is. Wouldn't those, if Zeke is doing as much off-season conditioning and so much prep work, wouldn't those be the most crucial games for this Dallas team when they don't have
But I
him?
think you can expect that you're going to take a step back when Zeke is off the field.
Yes.
That's why the week 1 is had, to me, of the utmost importance, because you know your most talented player on your roster, and I believe your second most important player on your roster, is going to be gone for a big chunk. So while you've got him, and oh yeah, you get him against your division rival, and oh yeah, you get him against the team that beat you twice last year, go show the Giants we are better than you this year, even if we didn't show you last year.
It's the analogy in golf. You can't win the Masters on Thursday and Friday, but you can lose it. Now, Dallas can lose their season in the first 6 games. Back to your point. Well, wouldn't those games he suspended be more important? Yeah, because this season could be a wrap. I mean, if they go 2-4, they lose this game. Then they go 2-4. It's ugly for the Cowboys. You're talking about panic. Panic will set in by the time he comes back.
I think one of the things you look at and you talk about those first couple of games, you talked about the Giants. We know outstanding defense, all 3 levels of their defense. Then you talked about the Denver Broncos, best secondary in football.
Yeah, they might have the 2 best corners on the same team.
And you know, you look at them, they struggled defending the run. If he's gone, you know, there's a question mark. The Rams. Let me tell you what. I'm glad I don't have to line up against the Rams, especially if angry Aaron Donald gets back in there without a contract, right? So I don't want to have to play that. Arizona. Arizona's the number 1 blitz team in football. And, oh, guess what? Your best blitz pickup guy is a guy named Zeke. So, you know, you've got some issues there. But it doesn't change the fact that if you lose this game, I mean, you'll be in total panic mode anyhow. It's like it's always the fire sale.
Our amazing researcher, Dustin, I don't know if this will mean anything to you guys, but he showed me this, and I couldn't believe it, so no disrespect, Dustin.
How you going to tell us a stat? And Mark and I, we pretty smart. If it means something to you, it's probably going to mean something to us.
No, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean it that way. You're taking it the wrong way. I apologize. It was such a surprising stat, even though Dustin's the best. I fact-checked him on it, and the facts are correct. 21 teams that went on to win the Super Bowl got to start their season at home. Okay? The Cowboys started the season at home. Only one of them ever lost that game. So 21 teams that ended the season as Super Bowl champions started the year at home. Only one of those teams, the 2002 Buccaneers, started that season with a home loss. Now, I don't know if that means anything to you. Maybe that there's a little bit of, you know, stats can tell any story, but that's something.
Yes.
That it's only happened one time that a team that hoists the trophy at the end of the year started the year with a loss at home. But what I'm most proud of is I got Mark Schlereth to start caring about the schedule.
Welcome back to First Things First. So disturbing images out of Las Vegas. TMZ Sports obtained video of Seattle defensive end Michael Bennett being handcuffed by police. Bennett said an officer pulled a gun on him, ordered him to the ground, and threatened to shoot him if he moved. Bennett said in a statement that the excessive use of force was unbearable. He spoke about the incident yesterday. Take a listen.
It's a traumatic experience for me, my family, and it sucks that the country that we live in now, sometimes you get profiled for the color of your skin, and it's a tough situation for me. Do I think every police officer is bad? No, I don't believe that. Do I believe there's some people out there that judge people on the color of their skin? I do believe that, and I'm just focused on trying to push forward and keep continuously championing the quest for justice for people.
Cris, what is your reaction to this?
I mean, this is our reality. I mean, as African Americans, African American men, like, this has been my reality since I've been a kid. Like, I'm terrified of police. Even hearing sirens and stuff now, it doesn't sit right with me. Why? Because I've seen too many things. I've been involved too many times where I was profiled or someone with me was profiled, or me and my group, we were pointed out because we didn't look like we belonged in a certain place. We were in the wrong neighborhood. Like, this is not news. This is our life. This is my reality. Being a black man in America, this is my reality. Him face down after doing nothing. That's what I'm terrified. I have a son, 26. I teach him things you don't have to teach your kids. If he gets pulled over, what's the first thing to do? Always have his hands on the steering wheel. Always, yes, sir, no, sir. Like, this is our reality. I'm just wondering, where would this story be today if it, say Luke Kuechly went to the fight and he got arrested? Say J.J. Watt, after raising over $20 million, they put him face down. You think that would happen to J.J. Watt? I'm not going to answer, because we know. Like, this is the reality, and the only time people really, really get upset is when they have video evidence, when this is what we've been saying. Well, so for me, I'm very upset. I'm very disturbed, and from a number of different levels. Like, what type of success do you have to have in America where black people get treated just like white people? Like, what do you have to do? I mean, he is a successful man, but he's still a profile, just like people in urban communities are every day. Unlawfully put on his face, humiliated. His brother humiliated yesterday with the Green Bay Packers when his teammates were watching the video. He couldn't stay around him. He had to leave the locker room crying. So, yes, am I upset? Of course I'm upset. But this is my reality in America.
Cris, you mentioned your son. So, what you're describing is not my reality, but one thing you and I have in common is we both have black sons. And both of them, it is such a hard thing as a parent, because you teach, and this maybe sounds a little sexist of me, but you teach your boys especially, you stand up for yourself. If you know you're not wrong, you look people in the eye, you meet them eye to eye, and you tell them why you're not wrong. Except the cops are involved. Yeah, I don't know how you taught Duran. I know how I taught DeMonze. If I do not care how right you are, I do not care if you've done nothing. Your only responsibility is get out of the situation as safely and quickly as possible. And if you feel you've been mistreated, come home, tell us, we'll deal with it how we can deal with it. I do not know what it's like to walk around living the reality that's my reality. But I know as a parent, all you try to do is protect your kids and try to raise them to carry themselves with dignity and respect. And it is crippling. I've told the story before, I'll say it again. When we lived in Texas, and this would be anywhere we lived, son was the age where he could drive. He's a big black kid, 6'4", college basketball player, all his friends, basketball teammates, basically all of them, other pretty big black kids. We had the means where we could get him a car. I was like, I'm not getting you a car, man. I'll pay for the Ubers. Like, it wasn't just because you could be pulled over by the cop, but that's the math I had to do. That wasn't the math my parents did with me. They might be worried about if I was going to drink and drive. They might be worried about other things. And people, when they talk about Kaepernick or athletes protesting, people like to point out, oh, how much has racism affected you? You're rich and famous. Man, in that moment, when Michael Bennett's laying face down saying, sir, demeaning himself to that police officer, doesn't matter how rich he is, doesn't matter how famous he is, matters he's viewed as a threat. And, I mean, it's heartbreaking.
You use the word crippling, which I think is a great word, and I think in today's day and age it is. To watch that happen, to see video of that happening, to see him respecting the police officers who did it. And before you even, and obviously I can't relate to raising an African-American child. I can't. But the other day I heard Herm Edwards talk about, and I'm shocked to almost hear the exact same story you talked about when talking to Durant, talking about how he taught his son what to do should he ever get pulled over by a police officer. And it was more than just put your hands on the steering wheel. He taught his son, you put your hands outside the car. You pull over, you stop, you take both hands. They're outside the car, so there's no doubt what you are doing and what you have and whatnot. And I was blown away by that. And then I sat down and heard you, my friend, who I had no idea, have a very similar conversation with your son. It is mind-boggling.
On several occasions, I've had frightening encounters with law enforcement. And most of those encounters involved me setting off my alarm at my house, 10,000 square feet, in a gated community. The alarm was tripped. So the police officer come. What do normal people do? You stay in the house. What do I have to do as a black man? I got to get in my car. I got to go in the driveway and turn my lights on to make them aware that there's someone there. I can't wait in the house. You know why? Because I can't take the chance. He was 1 second away from one mistake. And then would people be taking it serious?
Well, this is the last thing I'll say on this. I say this as a white man in America. Black people have been telling white people forever, we are treated a certain way by the police. We are treated differently. We deal with different things. There is excessive force. There are unlawful arrests. We are dealing with a different reality with law enforcement since, honestly, the beginning of law enforcement in this country. Black people have said that for my entire life, your entire life, and longer than that. And for the longest time, white people's general reaction was, nah, you must be, come on, you're exaggerating. It's not really that bad. And then an amazing thing happened. Everyone got one of these. Everyone got a high-definition recording device in their pocket. And all of a sudden, we started seeing it documented. And what is so disheartening for me is instead of the reaction at large of the white community being, my bad, we are so sorry. Y'all weren't lying. You weren't exaggerating. What can we do to fix it? The reaction has been to double down. Since Tamir Rice was killed, or since John Crawford was killed, or since Ezell Ford was killed, and there's a lot of names on video. If you look at it, amongst white Americans, the respect and the approval rating of police officers has gone up, not down. The faith in the police has gone up, not down. So the reaction to the video confirmation of what black folks have been saying for 100 years has not been, sorry, what can we do to fix it? But what were you doing wrong? Why were you in that position? Why didn't you comply? What? Even if it can be a 12-year-old child playing with a BB gun, as Tamir Rice was, it can be a grown man in an open carry state walking around a Walmart with something they sell. There are no set of circumstances, it would appear, that will make in general, the white community at large say, this is a problem we need to fix. And the Michael Bennett video, I said it yesterday on Twitter, I'll say it here. It is heartbreaking, but not surprising.
And the irony is not lost on anyone that Michael Bennett is one of the players who actually knelt and continues to kneel during the national anthem to protest this very, very unjust situation.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to your First Things First podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Wolfe. We will be back at the same time tomorrow, 6:30 a.m. Eastern on FS1. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts. So long, everybody.